Rowan Kenrith ventures across the valleys and into the wilds atop a stout horse. Luckily, the small folk take her in and offer what little they have. In the wee hours of night, they find her awake, still searching for a cure for the Wicked Slumber. Royce, the Weaver, her host tonight, warned her that sleep would come for her eventually, whether she liked it or not. If Rowan was determined to continue her quest, she should go to a castle not far from where they stayed, where a lord had died long ago. As the woman describes the castle, she lets it slip that Rowan's kind wouldn't remember the lord. Rowan's kind? She thought. Royce smiles as moonlight plays upon her skin and her glamour breaks, revealing 8 eyes and many more arms than any human should have. Through chittering mandibles, Royce reminds Rowan that she had promised shelter and food. They were not enemies. Rowan relaxed, but still wouldn't sleep, and spent the night learning a little of weaving from Royce instead. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Ether Hub. I'm Simon, bringing you more Magic the Gathering lore. Today we continue the Wilds of Eldraine story with Chapter 2. In the previous video, which you can find on your screen right now or in the playlist linked in the description below, we returned to the plane of Eldraine just following the Phyrexians' invasion. We found the realms were in tatters. The High King and Queen are dead, and their children, Will and Rowan Kenrith, don't yet have the support of the people. As they navigate the politics of ruling, another crisis hangs over Eldraine, the Wicked Slumber. A spell cast to originally help aid in their defense against New Phyrexia now curses their citizens with an unbreakable sleep. While Will and Rowan squabble over governing ideology, a new hero steps forward, a young half-fae named Kellan. His past is mysterious, but he's set to learn more about himself as he quests for the High Fae Lord, Talion, to end the Wicked Slumber. Now we continue with Wilds of Eldraine Chapter 2, Wandering Knight, Budding Hero, written by Arsenault Rivera. Remember, if you're enjoying the content here, to please support us by leaving this video a like, sharing it with friends, dropping a super thanks if you're able, and becoming a subscriber. All goes a long way in helping this channel grow. And now, let's get back to the lore. In the morning, Royce was seeing Rowan off, wishing her good fortune. When Rowan reaches the castle, she finds crumbling walls and ancient parapets. Dust chokes her, and undead servants rise to meet her blade as she hacks her way into a library. There were no lost secrets here, only what looters had left behind. With her having come all this way, there was nothing. Rowan's anger boils, imagining what her brother Will might say if he could see her failure. Her body begins to shake, and she realizes she's weeping. Against all reason, Rowan finds a bed, remembering Royce's warning, but she was just so weary. Rowan collapses on the rough mattress, and the dream swallows her. In this dream, she walks through the castle, but it's whole and new. There are bards and dancers in the halls. Fair women and handsome men led her further. A squire removes her armor, and a warm robe is draped over her shoulders. A tankard of mead is thrust into her hand, as she finds a table at this delightful feast. Her father and mother stand at the head of the table, spreading their arms toward her, glad to see that she made it. There they were. No scars or wounds, just alive and happy. Rowan runs to her father, who lifts her up and spins her. Her stepmother is there too, dabbing the tears from her eyes. They were so proud of Rowan, who had come so far to see them. Rowan opens her mouth, but cannot speak, not even when her father asks if she seeks their counsel. Even though she cannot answer, King Kenrith knows what she seeks and takes the crown from his head and places it atop her own. He tells her to go to their home of Castle Ardenvale. Their blood awaits her there. Rowan wakes in the ruins of the castle, seeing the sunlight filter through the dust. Alone, surrounded by cold and death, she allows herself to weep again. She will go to Castle Ardenvale. Kellan asks a stranger if he had seen any witches lately. The man laughs and tells him about one down the street who sells the best pies in Edgewall. The stranger is kind enough to toss a coin to the boy, and Kellan tucks it away in his pouch. All he has to do was keep at it. This is only the first step in the journey, right? All his life, Kellan's mother told him stories of places like Edgewall, dwarves, fauns, mages, but now, here, they were real. There were shops and vendors everywhere, and when Kellan found the pie shop, he saw a line that doubled or maybe even tripled up in length. They must really make great pies here. But there's no way the lady was an actual witch. His mother always told him cooking was as close as one could get to witchcraft, so maybe the shop owner would know something. Kellan stands at the end of the line to wait. Looking around, he sees a sleeping man under the eaves of the shop with a swirl of violet around him. His eyes are closed, mouth open, drool falling on his armor. This must be that slumber he had heard about, the curse he now was looking to end. A hurried customer bumps into the sleeper, and the sleeper jerks and falls over. Why is no one helping him? Kellan makes a move to aid the fallen knight, but a hand grabs his wrist. A girl in a red cloak warns him not to touch the sleeper. She tells Kellan that the wicked slumber spreads, but no one knows how, so it was best to not touch the cursed. She had heard a boy who was asking about witches and recognized Kellan was that boy. She warned him that if the wicked slumber didn't get him, the witches would, if he kept asking questions like that. Kellan told her about his quest, and though he didn't have a sword, he did have Lord Talion's parting gift, a pair of basket hilts made of old glowing wood. Never mind that there was nothing attached to the hilts. They meant he was a real hero. Surely anyone would be impressed by them. The girl only raises a brow, but she tells Kellan about her brother Peter, who lives in Dunborough and knows all about witches. But he had been away for several days. Kellan had not met any Peters during his travels, but the girl insisted that he should seek him out and tell him that Ruby is waiting for him at home. Ruby tries to bid Kellan farewell, but he insists that she can tell him herself if he comes along on the quest. She knew the way to Dunborough, where witches were said to be, and maybe Lord Talion could help her find her brother. Kellan didn't want to reveal who his liege was, but he was sure the Lord of the Fae could help. He was nervous to announce that he was working for the Fae. He knew many people feared them, and probably wouldn't offer aid if they knew he was their champion. Without revealing that fact, Ruby agrees. She saw this young boy and felt sorry for him. He seemed a bit pathetic. Someone had to look after Kellan. It might as well be her. Over the heaths and through the barrow in search of witches they go. Sharp Phyrexian remnants litter the countryside, hacked apart after the slumber stopped them in their tracks. Ruby was surprised that Kellan had never seen a Phyrexian before. He stopped to gawk at one that looked like a battering ram, weeping oil, and he turns away to look at the twisted trees rather than this twisted thing that had once been alive. The Boy King said the Phyrexians came from somewhere else, some other realm. Kellan wasn't aware that there were any other realms. He couldn't imagine much more than what he'd seen in Edgewall, or the floating pixies scattered across the wilds. The unseen pixies play tricks as they move branches from their path, splashing water onto Ruby's shoes. She picks an apple out of her basket and throws it as fast as a crossbow bolt, and somewhere amongst the trees a pixie yelps. What a shot! Kellan wasn't so sure he could do as much with his wooden hilts, but it makes little difference. In that moment, an arrow whistles past his face, nicking the tip of his nose. Ruby is the first to act, and act quickly, tackling Kellan into a blackberry bush as his clothes protect him from the thorns. Beyond the thicket, they see him, a man in wolf armor, the snarling maw concealing all but his burning eyes. He was staring right at them, striding for them. They had to run. The wolf knight howls and peels through the forest, scattering crows and pixies alike. Another arrow whistles over Kellan's shoulder, and he knows he needs his wooden hilts. They weren't swords, but Talion had promised him they would help refine his abilities. So far, they had only helped him punch harder when he held them, but that was better than nothing. Kellan throws one of his hilts at the pursuing wolf knight, and it bounces uselessly off his armor. Then, it flies back into Kellan's hand. They ran beneath the massive body of a Phyrexian they had passed earlier, but now found other creatures. They looked like a toddler's drawing of a wolf, though they were muscular and their fangs dripped with blood. They were witch stalkers, and before Kellan can remember if they are magical or not, Ruby weaves between them, smiling beneath her hood. Kellan gathers his courage, throws up his own hood, and darts through the pack, wailing like a child. Ruby pulls Kellan up as he basks in the glory of his first adventure, having escaped the snaps of the witch stalkers. The wolf knight steps into the clearing, letting out another howl. The witch stalkers answer, causing the wolf knight to turn and run. Kellan stood up relieved to see the witch stalkers giving chase and notices a cabin they must have missed earlier. The house was thorny and black, like it was made from blackberry brambles, and violet windows pulsed from within. All around the house was a thick violet mist. This had to be a witch's house. The two of them slink up the large windows to peer inside to see two people. The one Kellan thinks must be the witch walks in a circle around a large darkness in the center of the room. Smoke rises from whatever she's guarding. The other figure is slumped over, facing away from the window. The darkness was in fact a real cauldron, and Ruby says the woman is using it to boil people's bones into stew. The two duck beneath the windowsill to avoid her violet, glowing gaze as the witch paces around the cauldron. They sneak around the corner, careful not to touch the cursed plumes of violet smoke that hang around them. Kellan presses his ear to the door, and he can hear the witch's voice muttering something about a knight walking in when she was hungry, and the armor being difficult to eat without breaking a tooth. A haunting rhyme for a haunting proposal. She was going to eat the knight? They had to do something, quickly. Then, the wolf knight slides through the mists, covered in blood. Maybe he could fight the witch inside, and Ruby could hold off the wolf knight outside. And then, maybe when the witch was gone, the wolf knight would disappear too. That's what happened to conjured guardians in the stories his mother told. Kellan hoped that if his father, his real father, was listening, he would give him courage. Kellan opens the door to the house and scurries to the cauldron quiet and quick, the witch continuing her awful song. Lashed to a log is a woman wearing armor, her right arm missing, and in its place, solid enchanted wood. The witch is so preoccupied with finding the right spices for her foul-smelling brew that she doesn't notice Kellan. He lowers his head and charges, like one of the rams on his farm back home. The witch screams as he knocks her into the cauldron and a puff of black smoke rises. There would be time to think about the implications of what he had just done later. Now, he needed to save the knight. Kellan unties her and grabs her hammer that leans against the shelves holding jars labeled things like Eye of Newt and Toe of Frog. Ruby runs through the door as the knight tries to lift her hammer, but collapses. Here, Kellan learns an important lesson. Not all knights can be heroes all the time. The wolf knight walks into the threshold, and Ruby throws jars of ingredients from the shelves at him. As the bottles smash against his armor, he cries out her name, happy to have finally found her. He removes his helm, revealing a grizzled woodsman. It's Ruby's brother, Peter. He had heard an awful song while he was hunting and was enchanted by the witch. Since Kellan helped his sister, Peter promised to grant him a wish so long as it was in his power to do so. Kellan asked for him to help get the cauldron to Lord Talion, to show them that the witch had been defeated. Peter promised the knight with the wooden arm that he would come back and make a healing potion as a consolation for injuring her while under the witch's spell. Kellan tries not to think of what is sloshing around inside as he, Ruby, and Peter push the cauldron outside of the cabin. Instead of being met by enchanted violet mists, Talion's court appears to greet them. Kellan's kindly lord doesn't make themselves visible. He only knows Talion is there by faint music that plays around them. Their advice was quick and to the point. Hilda is the next witch Kellan should seek. Hilda has concealed herself from Talion's eyes, but Kellan was to consult the mirror Indralon to find her. The mirror was torn from Castle Vantris by Gera Grandsquall, and now lies far from its home. Talion tells him of a beanstalk that grows not a half-day's ride from here. He was to climb it and find the mirror at its peak. The court then disappears, leaving the three of them standing before the cabin. Ruby realizes Kellan's liege is the Fae King, something he was trying to hide. He feared that she would refuse to help him if she knew. Instead of refusing, Ruby admitted that Kellan was braver than she had ever thought, and agreed to go with him on this quest for the Fae King, though her brother Peter was far too injured to join them. Someone else thought he was brave? That was something Kellan could live with. Together, they went to tend to the knight's wounds and rest before setting out on their next adventure. And there you guys have it, Chapter 2 of Wilds of Eldraine's story. This was a really fun story that introduces us to a lot of new characters, setting up this unlikely alliance to face off against the dangers of the coming trials. No one said ending the Wicked Slumber would be easy, as Kellan is learning exactly what it means to be a hero. Unlike the stories in his books, sometimes what you need to do is messy, unhonorable even, such as sneaking up to a witch and lunging her into a boiling pot. But hey, the job's done. I love the tales each of these characters are bringing to the story, which is much more playful and fun than I first expected. We even see that the failed champion Imodain from the first chapter is back and likely siding with Kellan's party, though I'd be a little suspicious. We have no clue how she escaped the clutches of their kindly Fey Lord. And my final note here is the conflict between Will and Rowan is about to pick up steam. Not a lot more was covered in this story, but we now know that Rowan feels that she more deserves a crown than her brother as she marches back home, setting up a massive conflict. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's video, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content here, please support us by leaving this video a like, sharing it with friends, dropping a super thanks, and becoming a subscriber. All goes a long way in helping this channel grow. And until next time, guys, see ya!